you've written so many books that have been hits, and that I think more importantly have been ways that you've taken the hazy ideas in your brain and turned them into concrete words on a page, so much so that you go to China and people recognize you on the streets. I
Right.
mean, who cares about
Right.
the sort of external stuff, but the fact that you have documented so many of these ideas on paper so that we can share them and pass them
Right.
along through
Right. Right.
generations, is beautiful. And I think that this is one of the things within writing that I struggle with so much. Most of the words that I put on the page, I end up deleting. I end up pressing that backspace button and it goes and they leave the page. And how do you think about efficiency in your own writing process? One of the things I found is we're talking about conversation. I think the reason why we love conversation is, like you said, not because it's efficient, but because on the inverse side of efficient is randomness. And at some level, that randomness leads to serendipity, and serendipity leads to generativity, and generativity leads to that innovation. And I always find that my best ideas, at least the ones that help me cross the adaptive valley, that help me see sights anew, come through conversations. But conversations are extremely inefficient. So my question for you here is, how do you think about efficiency in your own writing process? I know you spent at some point 6 months researching virtual reality in a feature piece for Wired. That's inefficient,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my own conception of myself is much more as an editor than a writer. I love to edit and I hate to write. I don't
Hmm.
like to writing. I procrastinate writing. I write out of desperation, and I write primarily to discover what I think. I don't have access to what I think until I try to write it. I think I know what I think, but I realize I don't know what I think until I try to write it. And that's when I realize I don't know what I think. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have to go back and do more research and think about it some more. So I'm a very slow writer. I'm a slow writer. I'm a slow typer. And I'm not at all efficient in terms of how I do things. It may seem productive. That's only because I'm old. Um, it's not because I'm really very productive. So um, uh, my process of writing is um, iterative. I've come to like to write in public, or, to publish early drafts
Mm-hmm.
because I get such good feedback about what people understand and what I don't know, or mistakes, or new sources. I think the one primary thing that I try to optimize when I'm writing is clarity.
Hmm.
It's the clarity on the small scale, and then yeah, even clarity at the large scale. So that's really the only thing that I'm asking myself is, am I being understood? Is how can I make this clearer? And a good turn of phrase, of course, people like that. I'll kind of say those babies, but in the end, I will kill them if they aren't communicating, if they aren't clear. And so I don't see myself as a writer who's like really good with words and stuff. I see myself as someone, and that clarity that I'm trying to get is actually for my own sake. It's
Right.
like I need to really understand this or see this in order to make it clear to someone else. And so I have to, most of my time writing is pacing. And that pacing is me trying to see it, to see it, to be able to convey it. And so for me, it really is a kind of thinking on paper.
Have you tried the McLuhan Churchill style of just talking it out and seeing what happens?
I have a couple times, and my problem is there's not enough resistance.
Hmm.
I tend to say what I know. Um, I find it easier to say something new when I'm writing, and I don't know why that is. Maybe I could
Hmm.
change that. Maybe I could learn to force myself harder when I'm speaking. like a dictating. I don't know. I haven't got. I've tried a couple times and I haven't really been very successful. Um, but it is very it is very appealing because I'm such a slow writer.
Yeah. Um,
Have you tried it?
yeah, I do it all the time, man. I do it
You
all the
dictate?
time.
You dictate most of your stuff?
I don't dictate most of my stuff, but here's what I do.
You say it all the time. What do you mean by all the time?
There was a while where what I would do is I would, on my way home, whenever I got off the subway when I was living in New York, on the way home, I would dictate one idea and I would get an auto transcription and then I would keep a fair amount of them. And then the other thing that I do all the time, so I'm working on a big essay right now about how to save the liberal arts. And I just finished the first draft. It's about 10,000 words, but it's super disjointed. So what I'll do is I'll read the entire thing and then I will speak out a summary and I'll give myself like 3 minutes to do so. And when I have to summarize, what ends up happening is something that is sort of amorphous, almost like an amoeba, all of a sudden gets structured into an idea where there becomes this logical flow. And for that, I find speaking forces me to structure something, whereas my words on a page are sort of much more cubist. Like they're all over the place and they sort of slither and slather in ways that don't make sense.
That's an interesting idea of trying to speak a summary, because here's what I have observed is that the best time to write a book is after you've done the book tour for the book. Because after you've had to summarize it for a year, you finally realize what the book is about.
Right.
It's like, I wish I knew that when I was writing the book. So, so the idea of speaking out the summary might actually be something I should try.